In this video, we're going to cover the third piece in the warm-up, and that is getting angle. The previous two videos we talked about getting the bend. If you don't get bend through the body, it's really hard to get them to relax and be able to go out there and do your movement. So with all your movements, you need to have bend. Then the second thing is can you keep the horse relaxed and long through the neck, keeping the relaxation in the back, in the neck, so they're not contracting and kind of dropping down. Now the third thing is angle. So all the lateral movements have different angles to them. And so that means, can you have control over the hind end and the front end independent of one another? And there's different exercises you can do for that. The one that I like to really start off, it's kind of the easiest thing, is a counter shoulder in. And that is I'm just going to head down the rail. And Nisa here, the angle is not that big of a deal for her. It's pretty easy for her to do an angle. Like you can see, she's moving off. And what I mean by angle is we're going straight down the rail, and how much is she swinging her hind end over or her shoulders over? Where the hind end's on a different line of travel than the front end. And that's what I mean by angle. Like right now, that's a pretty steep angle to the rail. If I was going towards the corner there, that'd be a really steep angle, almost a side pass or a full pass. So that's really too much for most of our lateral work. But it's just depending on what you're asking. So different angles have a different effect on the horse. The less the angle is, the more the horse's hind end is to the rail, or they're going straight ahead. I'll just kind of show you that as I come back down the rail. So I want you to think of, if I'm going straight ahead, the hind feet are stepping up underneath the body. Now if I do a little bit of an angle, it's still stepping mostly up under the body, but a little bit of crossover. Now if I increase the angle, it starts to go more crossover and less forward. And if I go all the way into a side pass, there's no forward and it's all crossover. So each degree of angle has a different effect on your horse. With your shoulder in, counter shoulder in work, it's just a slight angle. You don't want a lot of angle because then you're not going to get the lift in the horse's back. You want the horse engaging the inside hind, stepping up underneath their body and picking their back up. If you have too much angle, now the horse is taking this hind foot and crossing it over there. And then it's more of a suppling action. So they're stepping across like so, instead of stepping up underneath, picking up. Is one right or wrong? No. It just depends on what you're looking for. What's the movement you're trying to achieve? So with our shoulder in work, we're looking for lift in the back. If you're going more into your side pass, full pass, then you're looking at more suppling of the shoulder and joints, and it just depends on what you're doing too. The full pass and side pass, you may be having to go over a log, or you're going to open a gate, that sort of thing. So you have to have that ability. Where the shoulder in work is just a slight angle, and that's to help get them to lift up underneath their back. Now, so that's what I'm doing here, is a counter shoulder in with a slight angle. I'm asking her hind to move away from me just a little bit. and then I have to keep the connection with my outside rein. And I'm talking more about that, in the shoulder in videos. So some of the exercises here to help with the angle are your counter shoulder in, what I'm doing here. The other one is counter shoulder in on a circle, because what you're having to get them to do is cross the front and the hind end over. So that's a bit more challenging for the horse. And if you're really having trouble and the horse just isn't moving off the hind end, I might go back to just putting the halter and lead on, or like here with the bridle, and I'll just do a little bit of saying, can you move your hind end over, as it's a bit of a shoulder in work, but just real basic. Can you step your hind end over compared to your front end? There. That's one exercise. Another exercise, and I talk about this in another video too, is your turn on the forehand in motion. And what I'll do with that, and again this works with just the halter. Here with the bridle, as I'm just going to hold both reins, and then I'm going to keep her standing in front of me, and can I get her to pivot around me? And that starts to get control over the body parts. So I can do the one direction. Normally I'll do one direction, kind of walk off, do something else, and then I'll come back and do the other side. And say, can you step over? Yeah, getting control over those different parts of their body. Getting that front end, getting that hind end, but mostly it's about hind end here. The angle is controlling the front end, putting the front end on the line of travel you want, and then saying, okay, now move your hind end over, off of that. First get that, and then there'll be times when you might say, okay, I'm going to keep the hind end on the line of travel I want, and then I'm going to ask the shoulder to move over from that. And that's a little more difficult. So right now just think about, how can I put my horse's front end, shoulders on this line of travel. So if there's a white line on the ground here, I'm going to say, put your front feet on that. Let's follow that around. And I'm going to ask her to move her hind feet to the outside of that circle. And this is just a shoulder in. Now if I'm really having trouble with it, is I'm going to ask more angle. So I'm going to say, hey, can you cross over more, because it could be a suppling issue. Can you step up underneath, cross over? She's like, what do you want? Yeah. And I'm holding her in there for quite a while. You wouldn't do that with your more green horse. Is just get a little bit, go off, and then come back and say, hey, can you give me some angle? Now a huge part of getting the angle is about controlling that shoulder, and you're doing that through your outside rein. If I don't have any contact on the outside rein, she's just going to over bend in the neck. And that's what you just saw me doing, is just asking her to go around. And this is the really basic form. And so what happens is she'll get more bend in the neck than you're really desiring. But as a place to start, that's okay. as you advance up more in your in-hand type of work, then I'm going to connect the outside rein and say, okay, I've got control over that outside shoulder. Now I want you to move the hind end over. There you go. So the angle work again is it's so important to have the bends. So if you're having trouble with the angle, make sure you're getting bends through the body first. Then go back and start playing with your shoulder in work, as most of what you're going to do to help with your angle, whether it's on the straight line, whether you're on the circle. And the leg yield actually is another great exercise too, or movement, because you're keeping the angle that you have. You're keeping them straight ahead and asking them to go laterally, so that can be helpful too. So just go out, play with what is it that's going to help your horse. Which exercise? Is it the shoulder in? Is it the leg yield? What's going to help improve? Maybe you go and play with some side passing over some logs, or side passing down the fence, that sort of thing. And I cover that in some other videos. But it's all about what does your horse need, how can you help them, and the more you can get the bend and the lengthening and relaxation in the neck and the angle, the better all your different movements come together. So go out there, play with it, let me know how it's going. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.